Hola a todos, soy Mike. Bienvenidos a la guía definitiva para aprender a conjugar el verbo fascinar en español. Hi everybody, this is Mike. Welcome to the ultimate guide to learning how to conjugate the verb fascinar in Spanish. The verb fascinar in Spanish is an interesting verb because we use this verb with the indirect object pronoun. Me fascina, te fascina, nos fascina. There's a conjugation of the verb itself and so and so. We change, as you have seen the other videos in this series of videos, basically we change the subject pronoun for the indirect object pronoun. We use that. We use the verb, one conjugation for all of the indirect object pronouns, and we use the forms in order to use this kind of verbs in Spanish. Now, it's an interesting thing because in Spanish we use fascinar in this way, me fascina, te fascina, but in English this would be like when we say in English to be fascinated by. So in fact, we're not conjugating the verb fascinate, right? We're conjugating the verb to be, because I say I'm fascinated by, you're fascinated by, he's fascinated by. So really, we're not really conjugating the verb fascinar in English. We're conjugating the verb to be. But in Spanish, we use the verb fascinar. So whenever you use any sentence with a form to be fascinated by, in Spanish means that it has to be translated using the verb fascinar and using the indirect object pronouns. And let's remember about this. The indirect object pronoun for the verb fascinar has to be fascinated by. So for I, we are going to use me. For you as tú, singular and formal close relationships, we are going to use te. For he, she, it, or you as usted, we're going to use le. For we, we're going to use nos. And for you as ustedes, or they, we're going to use les. And remember, sometimes we use these two words before the indirect object pronoun in order to, for emphasis. Most likely, not necessarily, but most likely. So we can either say me or a mí me. We can say te or we can say a ti te. We can say le or we can say a usted le. We can say le or a él le or a ella le, nos or a nosotros nos, or a nosotras nos, les or a ustedes les, and les or a ellas or a ellos les. And it's pretty much the same. So it is important for us to understand that we use this with these kind of verbs. And there's also a thing. The conjugation for the verbs is one. For all of the pronouns, for the indirect object pronoun, is one conjugation depending on the tense. That's something that we are going to learn every time we repeat, we associate, and we're exposed to this. So for the verb fascinar, we have all of these forms for pretty much all of the tenses: simple present, simple past, simple future, present perfect, going to form, present continuous, past continuous, and such and such and such. And this is when the object of my fascination is singular. Like, I am fascinated by Japanese culture is one thing. So I would say me fascina. Just one thing. Whereas if the object is plural, like I'm fascinated by your eyes, which is plural, I would say me fascinan. And once again, same conjugation for all of the indirect object pronouns depending on the tense. So this is basically what we're going to do. And for doing so, we have this little thing here. Let's change this to singular. So we have the singular conjugation for the verb importar. And on the upper right, we have the indirect object pronoun list, the full form, and we can just use the form or the simple form, a mí me or me, and such and such. So let's say the sentence is this: I'm fascinated by Japanese culture. So in this case, it's singular because Japanese culture is one thing, right? I'm fascinated by one thing. So it's I, right? To be fascinated by, it's I. So in this case, I use me. Fascina. La cultura japonesa. That's it. Or I can say, a mí me fascina la cultura japonesa. It's the same. I can say both. So how about not for I, but for you are? You are. And would be a ti. If it's tú, a ti te. This doesn't change. This changes. Would be te fascina la cultura japonesa, or a ti te fascina la cultura japonesa. Any of those. If it's you as usted, then it will be a usted le. A usted le fascina la cultura japonesa. And if it's you are ustedes, a ustedes les. Same thing. See, and now is when we say, oh yeah, it's not as hard as we thought. Hopefully. How about he is? He is. A él le. We are. A nosotros nos. And such and such. Now, tenses. Same thing. Let's change tenses. He was fascinated by. A él le fascinaba, or a él le fascinó, depending on which simple past we're using in Spanish. Right? He will be fascinated. A él le fascinará la cultura japonesa. He has been. A él le ha. Fascinado. He would be. Whoops, sorry. He would be. A él le fascinaría. And such, following the rules of the conjugation. Now, let's say it's not singular, it's plural. And let's use this. I'm fascinated by your eyes. Same thing. Me fascinan, because it's several things. Plural. Tus ojos. Tus ojos is not one thing, it's two things. Tus ojos. Plural. Me fascinan tus ojos. Same thing. We are. Nos. Conjugation doesn't change. Conjugation only changes. We were. Nos fascinaban. O nos fascinaron. We will be. Nos fascinarán. And such and such. So as you can see, this is not really tricky. Well, it's a little tricky. It's not impossible. It's just a little tricky. And check it out. In English, the real conjugation falls upon the verb to be. Whereas in Spanish, we're conjugating the verb fascinar, but following the rules that we are learning for verbs that we use with the indirect object pronouns. That's it. It's not harder than this. So that's the idea. Every time you watch one of these videos in this series, you're getting more used to these forms. So by this point, if you've been following all of these videos, you most likely know how to say a mí, me, a ti, te. The indirect object pronoun list is pretty much learned. I'm sure it's pretty much learned, right? And the conjugation, well, it can be tricky, but it's not that hard. And it is important to understand because this is the way we do that in Spanish. So remember, read a lot. Read, because by reading you're going to identify these kind of things in Spanish, of course. Oh yeah, this is this kind of verb, and this is why they're using the indirect pronoun. Listen a lot, because listening you will get a hold on the use of that as well. And then start talking. Start talking because you need to learn. Well, that's the idea, right? And repetition, association, exposure, the three keys to learning and being fluent in Spanish. Okay, so that was it. I hope this is not going to be confusing. It's pretty much easy. I hope you're going to study and practice a lot. This is a matter of practicing. Practice makes perfect. So make sure you're going to check the whole video to do your own exercises, to build your sentences, to start using this verb as soon as you can. And the more that you use it, the more that you're going to understand its use and how to conjugate the verb in the different forms. So if you have questions, check the video as many times as you need. And if you still have questions, leave a comment. I'll try to reply as soon as possible. If you like this video, remember, you know what to do. Please share with your friends, group, social media. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell button in order to get notifications because we're posting videos on a weekly basis. And that's going to help us also to grow as a channel. So I really appreciate you for watching the whole video and looking forward to bringing more videos like this. So see you later. Study much, estudien mucho, aprendan mucho, sigan practicando y nos vemos en un próximo video. Bye.